Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen across our beautiful country of Canada, our friends south of the border in the United States of America, Mexico, Central America, South America. Let's go the other way. New Zealand, Australia, Asia, China, Japan, Korea, and I call Korea because it's all Korea. Russia, Ukraine, all over Europe, Middle East, Africa, and I didn't mean to forget in Asia. I'm also, India, amazing India, boy. So today is the 18th day of May 2023, and I want to talk, for me, learning is continual. I've talked about that in videos all the time. In the last few days, I've come across a video channel, and I'll get to that in a minute. But first I want to tell you, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen across our beautiful country of Canada, our friends south of the border in the United States of America, across the pond in Europe, Africa, Middle East, Asia, India, China, Ukraine, Central America, South America, Australia, New Zealand, everywhere. Welcome back to your favorite angry Canadian with a beard now. Never know. Might be off very soon. You can get up in the morning, scour news articles and stuff like that, and just shake your head in disbelief. But I couldn't believe, how inflation's going up, government is doing whatever the hell it wants, and people allow it. And I thought, are they dumb? Are they stupid? Are they blind? And I don't mean blind in just to what is going on around them. But I had a new thought brought on by a video about cowardice. Cowardice. Doesn't it sound good? People are afraid to rock the boat. I mean, if you're going to cause trouble, Trudeau could shut down your bank account, destroy you, put you out of business, destroy your family, whatever. They have power. So it's best not to raise any issues that could, come unfavorably to you. And that cowardice right now is allowing the most unbelievable and worst changes happening to our planet by people since I don't know when. They're destroying farming because you're going to eat bugs. Just an example. Wars, countries spend more on killing people than on feeding or ensuring their population. Their population rises from inside, not by not having a border and being flooded. There are just so many things, viruses. Now the countries are signing on, I guess it's going to be next May, to a WHO charter, which will give WHO an unelected body, it's unelected, complete control over your life. They can dictate whatever to countries. Now, how the hell do you go from being a free and democratic Canada to being under the thumb of everyone else? And by everyone else, I mean, Trudeau's under the thumb of liberals, Soros, Democrats in the States, the G7 Goonies, and all these things. Trudeau is not his own man. He doesn't give a shit. He doesn't give a shit about Canada. He doesn't care about you. Oh, he pretends, but that's what politicians have to learn to do, is act. So, people are cowards. They're not going to change, They told you stay in your friggin' house. Okay, no problem. They told you you can't associate. You can't go see your parents in an old retirement home, old age home, whatever it's called, senior residence care. You couldn't go there. As a matter of fact, you couldn't even go to hospitals, into hospitals. People didn't rise up because, well, you know, the scientists say and the experts say and the government says. And you know, if you're not going to take that shot and you're an employee, like in a hospital, nurses, you will be, not just nurses, employees in a hospital, you will be dismissed, fired, without even fighting for their rights. Not even, you shouldn't even have to fight for your rights. They're in the Charter, Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it's also in Canada's Constitution, which I guess Justin Trudeau just ripped both of those up when he brought in this emergency declaration that allowed private banks to seize accounts, collect information on their clients without a warrant. Holy gosh, that must, you know, can you imagine if you could go into a bank or a financial institution and take a look at some accounts just because, well, you know, look at all the money they got and now some of it's going out. I gotta find out more about it. It's incredible. And the majority of Canadians bow their heads down and wander off in cowardice because they did it to the truckers, you know. So if I do it, they're gonna come and do it to me. And I don't want that. You know, I need the money for rent, for expenses. I don't need to lose my job. Fear. And it worked. And it continues to work.
Cowardice is the problem. The world is full of cowards. We suffer from a pandemic of cowardice. We've never suffered from any other pandemic the last 3 years. People are absolutely and utterly cowards, and they do to me what they did to me to scare people. If you tell the average person you're going to lose contact with basically everyone you can speak to, you're not going to have a voice anymore, you're not going to have a bank account, you're not going to be able to make money online, you're not going to be able to move anywhere, you're not going to be able to transact, we're going to wreck you head to toe, the average person can't deal with that, right? On top of the fact that the average person is employed and they're scared of losing their job, scared of their employer. I'm in a unique situation because I'm extremely difficult to hurt. But the average person, as soon as you hurt their money, their life is over, right? And that's what we've got. We've got to a level of cowardice amongst the population where people are just going to sit there and ignore objective reality because they're scared of having this cancellation weapon used against them. So yeah, you're right. It's not that people don't agree with us. It's not that we're not saying the things that everyone knows are intrinsically true. It's that everybody is afraid to say it. And that can only end when everybody stands up and stops agreeing and playing this game and stops being cowards. We need mass numbers of people to say, no, I'm allowed an opinion. Mm-hmm. You know what? Nigel Farage, and I'm not, since UKIP ended, I don't even know about his politics nowadays. I don't even know what he's doing. But he said something that was really interesting. He was asked about who runs the world. And I guess the person was trying to set him up for a question about the elites. And he said, truthfully, I'll tell you who runs the world. We do. Because we decide how much of this crap we're going to put up with. The problem is we're putting up with too much of it. Problem is everyone's a coward. And you're right. I get the same thing. Wow, thanks for saying it. Why don't you say it? And everyone is just terrified. And it really is truly crazy because fear has always been the control mechanism of man. The worst things that have ever happened in any society or any civilization since the dawn of fucking records has been done under the name of fear. Get the population afraid. What did Goebbels say? The propaganda minister of the Third Reich. Once people are afraid, give them a common enemy. They'll do anything you want. That's the Nazis knew this. Everyone knows this, right? So it's a basic playbook, but I think it's also a larger issue. I think that things like making sure people are semi-depressed, making sure people are divided, making sure people are selfish, making sure people are self-obsessed. They're trying to destroy people's will to stand up and care about anyone other than themselves. And once you do that, coupling with the fact that if you start to care about others and genuinely care about the world, you'll ruin your own life. Mm-hmm. It just makes people shut up.
Yep.
Be it through direct contact or through the air, traces of coronavirus can be transferred to the objects we touch and in turn transferred to us. To keep that from happening, we've come up with innovative ways to avoid having to touch things and to keep surfaces clean. But living our lives means it's impossible to avoid all types of contact, so we need to understand the real risks in our environments. How long does the virus remain viable on surfaces? And is it ever there in dangerous amounts? Do surfaces pose the threat we once thought they did?
He who dictates and formulates the words and phrases we use, he who is master of the press and radio, is master of the mind.
Man muss nämlich gut regieren und für eine gute Regierung auch eine gute Propaganda betreiben. Das eine gehört zum anderen. Eine gute Regierung ohne Propaganda kann ebenso wenig bestehen wie eine gute Propaganda ohne eine gute Regierung.
Mirlu writes, freedom of discussion and free intellectual exchange hinder conditioning. Feelings of terror, feelings of fear and hopelessness, of being alone, of standing with one's back to the wall, must be instilled. For many today, fear and hopelessness are frequent companions. In our cancel culture, free intellectual exchange is difficult. Why is big tech scrubbing even the most innocuous of alternative views? Mirlu explained why. The mind that is open for questions is open for dissent. In the totalitarian regime, the doubting, inquisitive, and imaginative mind has to be suppressed. The totalitarian slave is only allowed to memorize, to salivate when the bell rings. Mirlu adds, to the degree that the individual is made an object of constant mental manipulation, to the degree that cultural institutions may tend to weaken intellectual and spiritual strength, to the degree that knowledge of the mind is used to tame and condition people instead of educating them, to that degree does the culture itself produce men and women who are predisposed to accept an authoritarian way of life. The man who has no mind of his own can easily become the pawn of a would-be dictator.
I'm proud of the work that we've done to support our democracy. This is a difficult period, but I believe that America will emerge stronger than ever, and we're focused on doing our part to help.
The Pavlovian strategy encourages herding behavior as people are conditioned more and more to ask themselves, what do other people think? Mirlu continues, as a result, a common delusion is created. People are incited to think what other people think, and thus public opinion may mushroom out into a mass prejudice. Expressed in psychoanalytical terms, through daily propagandistic noise backed up by forceful verbal cues, people can more and more be forced to identify with the powerful noisemaker.
There is a clear message that is coming through. This is becoming a pandemic of the unvaccinated.
Chillingly, Mirlu writes, Big Brother's voice resounds in all the little brothers. Today, little brothers are all too ready to repeat bromides they have heard from Dr. Fauci and media-favored experts. Mirlu writes, the specialists in the art of persuasion may water down the spontaneity and creativity of thoughts and ideas into sterile and streamlined cliches that direct our thoughts, even though we still have the illusion of being original and individual. The result of this, as Mirlu observes, is in totalitarian countries, the self-thinking, subjective man has disappeared. Peaceful exchange of free thoughts in free conversation will disturb the conditioned reflexes and is therefore taboo. No longer are there any brains, only conditioned patterns and educated muscles. The mental automaton becomes the ideal of education. Mirlu has advice for those not living in totalitarian countries. We must avoid the personal mindset temptations that lead the way to totalitarianism. Free men in a free society must learn not only to recognize this stealthy attack on mental integrity and fight it, but must learn also what there is inside man's mind that makes him vulnerable to this attack. What it is that makes him, in many cases, actually long for a way out of the responsibilities that Republican democracy and maturity place on him. Escaping from responsibility seduces many. Mirlu writes, "The pressures of daily life impel more and more people to seek an easy escape from responsibility and maturity. Indeed, it is difficult to withstand these pressures. To many, the offer of a political panacea is very tempting. To others, the offer of escape through alcohol, drugs, or other artificial pleasures is irresistible. Unknowingly, we may become opinionated robots. We search for situations that create superficial fear to cover up inner anxieties. We like to escape into the irrational because we dislike the challenge of self-study and self-thinking. Our leisure time is occupied increasingly by automatized activities in which we take no part. Listening to piped-in words and viewing television screens. We hurry along with cars and go to bed with a sleeping pill.
But for those idiots out there who don't know how to play, here's how it goes. For each correct answer, they'll move one step closer to our cube of cash.
Mirlu warned that many free minds have given up the struggle for decency and individuality. They surrender to the zeitgeist, often without being aware of it. Public opinion molds our critical thoughts every day. As an antidote, Mirlu counsels spiritual bravery, a mental courage that goes beyond the self. It serves an idea. It asks for hyper-consciousness of the self as a thinking, spiritual being. He writes, "Spiritual bravery is not found among the conformists, or among those who preach uniformity, or among those who plead for smooth social adjustment. It requires continual mental alertness and spiritual strength to resist the dragging current of conformist thought. Man has to be stronger than the mere will for self-protection and self-assertion. He has to be able to go beyond himself in the service of an idea, and has to be able to acknowledge loyally that he has been wrong when higher values are found. Indeed, there is a spiritual courage that goes beyond all automatic reflex action. Financial, social, or other pressures might make you feel that you can't resist Big Brother. Resistance starts gently by recognizing our own mental processes that make us vulnerable to the current of conformist thought. With mental alertness, we attune ourselves to spiritual strength. With self-study, we prepare for peaceful exchange of ideas with those currently choosing to be little brothers. There is still enough freedom in America that without the support of little brothers, Big Brother will find it has no power of its own."
These people cannot think. It's almost a sad realization when you wake up and understand that there's a large contingent of the world who cannot think. And when I say that, I don't mean that in some kind of, semi-sarcastic, or I mean that literally. There are people who have a strong emotional reaction to subjects they completely don't understand. There are people out there who will stand up and say, "I hate Andrew Tate." Why? "I hate him. He needs to go to jail." Like, okay, why? "I hate him." Why? They don't know why. Once the Matrix can program an emotional response into you, and you can't even logically with your own words explain why you have that emotional response, you're completely a slave mind. These people don't think about anything. They believe what they're told to believe. They're emotional about what they're told to be emotional about in the exact direction they're told to be. And that's what the Matrix wants. It wants to be able to say a name and tell the world to hate them without even giving a reason and just get what they want. These people are so far gone. These individuals who they cannot logically explain their own emotions are so far gone, it's ridiculous. As an adult, what you need to do is seriously analyze every strongly held belief you currently have and work out where it came from. Is it personal experience? Is it from somebody who I care about and who I trust? Is it from what the news has said? Why do I believe this so much? Why do I have an emotional response to this? Where did it come from? People don't do that. They just sit there, watch the news, watch social media. I'm supposed to hate this guy, so I now hate this guy. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Zuby, because you're right. These people cannot think. They cannot even give a reason. There's a guy on TikTok who walks around and says, have you heard of Andrew Tate around college campuses? And people go, yeah. And he goes, do you like him? And they go, no. Why? He's a misogynist. What's misogynist mean? And then they can't answer. They don't know what they don't even know what it means. Like it's almost sad. But then you live through the last 3 years and you realize that, yeah, people can't think. There's a large contingent of the world that truly cannot think. It's scary. And the thing about it is, once they understand that the only way they can attack you is by saying you're a bad person, it doesn't matter once that you prove them wrong. They're not interested in the truth. They're not interested in truth. You can sit and say, here's proof he's not a misogynist. Here's proof he has no criminal record, never done anything wrong. Here's proof he's a nice person. Here's proof he gives to charity. Here's the orphanage he built. Here's the dogs he rescued. Here's the millions he's given away. Here. They don't want to see it. They're just blind to it. They're like, no, I ignore my own eyes. That can't possibly be true because the media told me this guy must be bad. And they're slave-minded. And what's actually scary is that these people genuinely believe that they're the good people of Earth. And it's always completely the opposite. Those who can be programmed by the media machine and the matrix to just be slave-minded and not think for themselves are the exact ones who always commit the most atrocities. These are always the people who end up doing the most heinous shit. And when you ask them why, they're like, oh, well, at the time, I just, just put on the gas chamber, newspaper told me to, oops. That's who these people are. So whenever I see a slave-minded person, it's not just a matter of going, oh, well, you're a dummy. I look at them with genuine disdain. I look at you and think you're actually a bad person. You're genuinely evil. You cannot think for yourself. I don't even see you as a person I ever want to get to know or I'd love to deprogram you, but it's impossible. These people are genuinely the worst people on the planet. And it's kind of convenient that all the people who dislike me are the worst people on the planet. So it's fine. I don't have to talk to them anyway. But if you read any history book, read any of it, all the most heinous shit committed by humanity were people who just couldn't think for them. Oh, right. But this is the thing that aggravates me the most. These slave-minded individuals are they're literally barely sentient individuals. If I was the kind of person, if I was walking around with a mask on and screaming at my fellow man in supermarkets, and I've now realized that I was wrong because COVID is still here.
Germany is suffering under the most difficult phase of the pandemic, according to the country's health minister. Addressing Parliament, the minister said infection and death rates are still too high. This comes after stricter lockdowns began nationwide on Monday, after a lockdown in December that failed to significantly reduce infection numbers. Germany reported 19,600 new COVID infections and 1,060 deaths, pushing the death toll to more than 42,000.
Be it through direct contact or through the air, traces of coronavirus can be transferred to the objects we touch and in turn, transferred to us. To keep that from happening, we've come up with innovative ways to avoid having to touch things and to keep surfaces clean. But living our lives means it's impossible to avoid all types of contact, so we need to understand the real risks in our environments. How long does the virus remain viable on surfaces? And is it ever there in dangerous amounts? Money, shopping carts, door handles, just about everything we touch is getting a second look these days, or even a clever workaround like that elevator we just saw. But are our anxieties over surface contacts backed up by the research into the virus and its viability? Let's take a look.
Weaving in and out among the commuters at London St Pancras is this futuristic pair. They've been brought in by one of the British capital's busiest railway stations to help with the fight against coronavirus. While one sweeps and mops, the other uses powerful ultraviolet light to kill microorganisms, including those that cause COVID-19. Keeping coronavirus off the station's surfaces is a constant battle. Scientists have been trying to work out how long the virus remains active on surfaces. Researchers in Australia recently tested its survival when left in ideal conditions.
The virus is suspended into an artificial matrix that resembles human secretions. We then placed a droplet of that virus onto the surface, allowed it to dry, and then incubated it for up to 28 days at 20 degrees, 30 degrees, and 40 degrees. And then we sampled at regular points to see if we can recover any live virus.
The scientists concluded that coronavirus can remain infectious on surfaces such as glass, steel, and polymer banknotes when kept at 20 degrees Celsius for at least 4 weeks. That's more or less room temperature. However, move up to 30 degrees and the virus survives for just 7 days. At an even higher temperature, 40 degrees Celsius, it remains infectious for just 24 hours.
And I'm not wearing a mask anymore. Neither is anyone else. I would feel deep shame. I would be apologetic. I would literally be saying to the world, I can't believe they fooled me like that. I don't know who you were, who I was yelling at in the supermarket. You were smarter than me. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. They fooled me. They tricked me. These people don't even feel shame. They don't even feel sorry. They don't even sit and go, wow, they made a fool out of me. It doesn't even cross their minds. They're on to the next thing now. Slava Ukraine. Next thing. They don't give a shit. And it's just truly amazing that they can destroy someone's life for 3 years and then recruit these people to go out there and push the agenda for them. And all the people who were tools of an agenda, now the agenda is over, are not sentient enough to sit and go, wow, they fooled me. I need to think more carefully next time they try and fool me. No. They just continue with the programming. These people are completely and utterly slave-minded, genuinely slaves. They live inside of a system, and the system they're going to purport and fight to defend is going to destroy them. They're not fighting for a system which is going to give them anything other than absolute slavery and tyranny. It's truly incredible to watch in real time this kind of crap happening. But these people are beyond saving, and obviously people like you and I stand up. But even though we're trying to help them, once they come for us with the cancellation mob, these people cheer. It's to a degree you'd like to think it's demoralizing. You'd say, well, why am I trying to save people from themselves if they're truly this stupid? But the odd ones that you can speak to and the minds you can free kind of make it worth it. But yeah, there are so many people out there that literally have never analyzed their own life and decisions. I say this to everybody at home. When I still had Twitter, I used to do tweets all the time talking about all the influencers, including conservative right-wing influencers who were purporting and pushing the mask agenda. Yes. You need to fucking apologize. You can't just memory hole it. You can't just delete the tweet. I saw it and the world saw it and you know who you are. Say sorry. Say sorry. Say I was a fool. They made a fool of me, and admit it, because if you don't admit your mistakes, you're going to repeat them.
I don't think people should be frightened. I mean, the risk right now, today, currently, is really relatively low for the American public.
And it really does displease me to find people going out. There's no role for these masks in the community.
No, right now, at this moment, there is no need to change anything that you're doing on a day-by-day basis. Right now, the risk is still low.
Government officials say face masks are not necessary if you are healthy.
Wearing this as a healthy person will not protect you.
And stay safe by washing your hands, by covering your cough, by staying home if you're sick. Masks do not work for the general public in preventing them from getting coronavirus.
Right. People should not be walking around with masks.
You're sure of it, because people are listening really closely to them.
Right now, people should not be walking. There's no reason to be walking around with a mask.
It's important for us to first and foremost protect our healthcare workforce. And it is imperative that they have the equipment that is needed. And so for everyday New Yorkers, we don't recommend the use of surgical masks.
We don't generally recommend the wearing of masks in public by otherwise well individuals, because it has not been up to now associated with any particular benefit.
A lot of discussion around face coverings, what they are, what they're not. They are not a call to get folks to to find N95 masks or surgical masks and pull them away or compete against our first responders.
First of all, I want people to understand that the CDC, the World Health Organization, my office, and most public health and health organizations and professionals originally recommended against the general public wearing masks. That we now know from recent studies that a significant portion of individuals with coronavirus lack symptoms. They're what we call asymptomatic. And that even those who eventually become pre-symptomatic, meaning that they will develop symptoms in the future, can transmit the virus to others before they show symptoms. In light of this new evidence, CDC recommends and the task force recommends wearing cloth face coverings in public settings where other social distancing measures are difficult to maintain.
You're telling everybody to wear a mask, whether they've had an infection or a vaccine. What I'm saying is they have immunity, and everybody agrees they have immunity. What studies do you have that people that have had the vaccine or have had the infection are spreading the infection? If we're not spreading the infection, isn't it just theater?